Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am very excited to have you here because today we are talking about what to do when your manifestation hasn't come through and you're feeling a little discouraged. It's something that we all experience when we're doing this work, and that's what we're doing today, so stick around. Today we are talking about what to do when you are feeling discouraged because your manifestation hasn't come through when you thought it would. I mean, how dare reality not show up on your schedule? I'm making a joke because it's something that we can all relate to. Certainly I can relate to that, where we're focusing on something, we're doing all the work, we're using all the techniques, we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing when it comes to law of assumption, and then what? Our manifestation doesn't show up. What the hell? And that can be a really discouraging moment, and it can, not so much as you get more into it, but certainly if you're in the beginning stages of working with these teachings, it can be very discouraging and it can have you question the teachings. If you haven't yet built up your bank account of manifestations where you've proven this enough to yourself that you know that this is absolutely the way this works, that consciousness is the one and only reality, and you are causing your reality based on what you're doing dominantly in consciousness, meaning what are you paying attention to on a dominant level. That is the game. That's how this works. When you come to life from a spiritual perspective, you really can have and do anything you want, and you do it in your imagination. That is your playroom. That's where you create. That's where you work out what it is that you want and then go to work about making that as familiar to your brain as possible. If you're working on something that you really are emotionally invested in and you really want, you can get into the trap of looking out into your reality and being like, where is it? Where's my manifestation? Why isn't it here yet? There's nothing wrong with it. There's no mistakes. You cannot mess this up. You really cannot do anything wrong. There's no mistakes. However, what that does, what that says in consciousness is that you don't have what it is that you want. And if you don't have something in reality that you are working on in consciousness, that's because there's a more dominant story of not having it. Now, to create something, you have to live from the end of already having it, meaning that you have to make more familiar of having the thing that you want than your reality, which is saying that you don't have it. And that's the muscle. That's where we really develop this manifesting muscle, is going into imagination, creating the scene of already having what it is that we want, making it familiar by engaging our spiritual senses, and then persisting with that story long enough for it to solidify. Remember, you've got to give time for reality to solidify. Like a cake that you put in the oven, you have to give it time to bake. Like a baby in the womb, you have to give that baby time to cook, so to speak. So it's the same with manifestations. Not always. You can manifest instantly. There's nothing to say you can't. However, sometimes when we have old stories or old assumptions that we're working with in changing so that we can bring this new manifestation in, there can be a time period, a gestation period, where your consciousness is solidifying and reality is organizing itself in order to deliver that thing that you want. And often in a much more amazing and incredible way than you had envisioned for yourself. I've experienced that so many times where I've imagined something and then reality has reflected back and just taken it to a whole other level. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And so what you want to do is you really have to be in your imagination more than your reality. I don't mean avoiding reality. I did a video on that. There's a difference between avoiding reality and ignoring reality. We are not avoiding reality. Reality is your feedback system. But if something isn't in your reality yet, doesn't mean it's not coming. It just means that you're in the gestation period. It could also mean that you have an old story running that is far more dominant than the new story you're creating in consciousness. If that's the case, go back, revise any unfavorable stories that might be in the way of you having what it is that you want. I'll give you an example about that. When I manifested my dream home, I had an old story. There was a negative story that I had around selling houses based on the fact that I did not want to sell my childhood house. That was a choice that was obviously out of my hands. I was 8 or 9, so it's not like I had much of a part in that decision process, fair enough. but I had a negative story around selling. So when I came to sell my apartment, there was a period of time where there was no interest, and that didn't make sense because it was in a prime position in Sydney, and it just didn't make sense. So I had to look at what my reality was telling me, and then I had to go, okay, why isn't my apartment selling? Am I just in the gestation period, or is there a story that's running about selling? And I went back and I looked at the only other time that I'd experienced selling a house, and it was not an experience that I wanted to have at the time. So I went and revised that story, and then the next week, everything was back on track, and my apartment sold actually within 2 weeks, or maybe it was 2.5, I can't remember. But anyway, once you clear the old stories, it's much easier to bring that in. So I would say if something is not coming up in your reality and you're feeling a bit discouraged about it, there are 2 things you could do. One, go into your imagination and really lock in to living from already having what you want, because when you have what you want in consciousness, you're not looking out into reality and wondering where it is. You know that it's done and you can just get on with your life. There's a real there's a confidence about your manifestation where you know that you've done the work in consciousness, and you just need to sit back and you know that it's coming because you understand that reality is the reflection of consciousness and you've done the work. It has to show up. That's how this game works. But if that's one way. The other way is to look at, okay, it's not showing up. Do I have a story that is running in consciousness from my past in relation to this thing that I want now that possibly could be getting in the way? Because whatever story is running in consciousness that's dominant, and often that's in subconscious as well, that is what's going to get pushed out and reflected back. Remember, it is the subconscious that causes reality, not so much the conscious mind. It is the subconscious. So the stories that are in the subconscious are what are going to get pushed out and reflected back. So that's where it can be really good to just go back and revise. If you can't, if you're not aware of what story might be running, that's cool too. Just go into your imagination and really work with what it is that you want and living from that, and just really getting familiar with that state of consciousness in your imagination using your spiritual senses. Your brain has to be convinced, it has to be more convinced that you have what it is that you want rather than not having it. And if you are looking out into reality, that then informs your brain that you don't have it, your consciousness that you don't have it, and then you're going to get that. And if you are feeling discouraged, just be gentle with yourself. I mean, this is the process of awakening. You're not going to get this done in a day. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was any city as far as I'm concerned. And so this can take time. We live in a physical world. We live in the 3D where we are subject to the laws of time and space from a physical perspective. And there is sometimes, not always, but there can be a gestation period. As Neville always says, your manifestations will always arrive at the perfect time. Thing is, we don't know when that time is, but just know if you've done the work and you've built that conviction in your mind that what you want is already here because you've done it in imagination and you've colored it in with your spiritual senses, so you do have it, then it's done. You can get on with your life. You can get on with your day. You can get on with your work. You can get on with your relationships, knowing that at some point, we do not know when, your manifestation will show up. And also, if you're questioning these teachings, that's cool too. You want to give yourself permission to have every experience that you're having. If you're doubting these teachings, if you're questioning them, if you're pissed off that your manifestations haven't arrived, give yourself time and space to have those experiences, and then just, come back and be like, all right, that's cool. Now we're just going to get back to work. Now I know what I have to do. I know that my consciousness is the cause of my reality. I know that reality is the reflection of consciousness. I know that. So I'm just going to get back to doing what I know I need to do in order to have what I want. And that requires living from the end as if I already have what I want, more than living in a reality where I don't have what I want. That's the game. That's the muscle. It's totally cool. If it doesn't always go your way, it won't always go your way. When you're feeling good, when you're stable, when you're ready to get back on it and start creating your amazing, wonderful life, because you really are the creators of your reality. You are the superstar of your show. You are the producer, the writer, the director, and the actor in your movie. What you assume to be true will be so. So assume the best for you, assume the best for everyone in your movie too, and you will have an amazing life. And this is my wish, my vision, and my prayer for you. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please like, comment, and share. I love reading your comments. Thank you so much. I really appreciate them. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, I would love to have you, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bye.